Hi folks, welcome to your latest MWIS Outlook that's updated on Tuesday the 2nd of March. Statistically speaking, we're now into the beginning of meteorological spring, but as is quite common for the time of the year, the weather can throw just about anything at us, from balmy spring days to a distinct reminder that winter hasn't quite gone, and that's more or less where we go in the next few days. We're in a settled weather pattern, high pressure is in charge, but chillier air is coming around from the northeast as we go to the end of this week. Some hard overnight frosts will be around into the valleys and the glens, and then next week it looks as though things become more unsettled again, with some wind, rain and maybe some snow as temperatures vary across the mountains. Let's start off by bringing back the freezing level chart, and through Wednesday at least we're still above zero across the mountains, again touch of frost in places at low levels first thing, but things are changing as we head into the evening and the night as we get colder air coming around on a north-northeasterly airflow, and that sweeping in with a cold front coming southwards overnight and into Thursday daytime, so that temperatures and freezing levels will lower, and I suspect as low as 400 to 600 metres, particularly across more eastern and northeastern regions into Thursday daytime, typically 800 metres or above the further out west that you go. But we're back sub-zero then across many of the higher mountains. That trend for sub-zero conditions will continue through the later part of this week, although there will be some diurnal range of freezing level. You'll see hard frost in many valleys and glens in the mornings for Friday and probably Saturday, maybe even Sunday as well. The daytime freezing level will then tend to rise, getting to say 700-800 metres, maybe even a bit higher in some places, before temperatures will then lower again overnight, and that cycle I think will more or less take us through the weekend. So at the time of the year, the strength of some daytime heating and some sunshine will just allow those freezing levels to lift more than they would do in the depths of winter. There's not a great deal to see on the synoptic chart still for the days ahead. This is how Wednesday looks. We've got a small feature just across the south of Britain, that likely to produce some locally heavy bursts of rain, mostly I think toward the south of England, but one or two of those could get into South Wales as well. Otherwise, it's a quiet day under slack high pressure with a gentle drift from the east or the northeast, hardly much wind at all around. Again, some low-level fog banks and some low cloud on some hill slopes maybe in the morning will tend to thin and break, and many western regions will actually have a broadly sunny day. Again, the mountains above an inversion at this stage. Now, the cold front that was lurking toward the northeast does sweep southwestwards across Britain into Thursday as a northeasterly wind strengthens. High pressure is just recentering itself and building again toward the north of Britain. So it's still a fairly quiet weather story, but we are likely to see a few showers along that front, with some snow flurries as well, even falling to quite low levels, amounts generally small. Cloud covering many higher tops at least part of the day, perhaps more extensively to some lower slopes for a time in some eastern regions, best of the breaks typically towards the west, and cloud bases will tend to lift again by the evening time, if not sooner, across northern Scotland. Much lower temperatures then, a distinct wind chill in exposure, that wind probably at its strongest across the south of Scotland and north of England. High pressure has then become established across Britain again through into Friday. We're all in that chilly air mass. It's come around from an Arctic source, an Arctic maritime in its origins. That does tend to bring very dry air, so excellent, superb visibility may well be in existence through into Friday. Lack of moisture means that more or less any of the cloud that was left from Thursday should thin and break up, and a good amount of sunshine should be around. One or two localised low-level fog banks, but even those disappearing very quickly. So a good day in prospect for Friday. Not much wind around for most regions, perhaps still just the leftovers of a chilly easterly drift across the Pennines and into Wales. High pressure is still around into the weekend. Some question mark just where the exact centre of the high gets to, and that may just dictate if anything begins to drift around its northern and western flanks, perhaps just bringing some cloud into northwest Scotland. But for the most part, again, it looks a good day. Light winds overall, perhaps just the strengthening of a southwesterly breeze across the far north of Scotland. Otherwise, it is a quiet day. Again, a very cold start, hard frost first thing in the morning, those temperatures then just rising through the daytime, but still higher mountains likely to stay near or just below freezing point. Still quite slack into Sunday. High pressure is around. It's just weakening a little bit by this stage, but a quiet weather story is likely. We just need to watch if anything does begin to develop across Ireland, which may just start to spill some cloud and maybe eventually some spits and spots of rain in across some western regions. Perhaps a weak front toward the north of Scotland too just needs watching there. But most places looking dry and most hills and mountains free of low cloud. A few banks here and there, maybe just around some coastal fringes, particularly towards the west. Light winds overall though, and again that similar sort of temperature story, starting cold and lifting gradually through the day. So a quiet weather story taking us through the weekend, a few bits of subtle detail which may just come out in the wash over the next few days. We're watching what's developing though over the other side of the Atlantic, with quite a temperature contrast developing off the eastern side of Canada. That's hand in hand with a strengthening jet stream, and all of that is then expected to move out over the Atlantic and bring a strengthening, enhanced westerly flow back towards Britain as we go through next week. The timing of that is expected to be in Monday, Tuesday, as weather systems and fronts begin to develop and sweep in off the Atlantic. We'll watch that closely in the days ahead. It does look on most forecast simulations, though, that deeper areas of low pressure will form to our northwest, and an unsettled trend is looking very likely. The risk of gales, maybe even the odd stormy day in there at times over the mountains, and some frequent precipitation too. Now, rain for a time, but with some chillier air that looks likely to be drawn into the mix, coming around on what is essentially a polar maritime air mass coming off the south of Greenland. We may well see some low freezing levels at times, showery conditions with some snow and some hail falling to low levels. So a chilly, unsettled week looks like developing as we go onwards into the second week of March. Low pressure seems to be much more the dominant feature. Quite a swap around then from what we're seeing at the moment. All change again then in the weather story going forward, so I'll keep you up to date with those details. Next video online for you on Friday. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.